Welcome back, guys. I trust you've been staying safe. Danilo Cavalcante is a name that is currently synonymous with two things: murder and prison escape. It's also a name that is currently sending shivers down the spine of residents of Chester County, as well as other areas in the United States of America. Danilo Cavalcante is also arguably the most, if not one of the most wanted men in the United States of America, because he has been on the run for 12 days now since escaping from the Chester County Prison in Pennsylvania. I'm going to do a whole video on how he escaped and what he's been up to in the 12 days since he's been eluding police and other security agencies to date. But for this particular video, I think that it's important we go down to his roots to find out who Danilo Cavalcante is as a person and how he got to the point of even having been sentenced to life in prison and eventually escaping and becoming the man he is with the reputation he now has. I think that this will give us a great perspective to understand his journey in life and also preempt and forecast and maybe to an extent appreciate what he is capable of, especially at this particular moment in time when his back is literally against the wall. Now, Danilo Cavalcante is originally a native from Brazil. He's Brazilian and he immigrated to the United States illegally. But why the illegal immigration? I'll get to that. It turns out that Danilo Cavalcante, just 34 years old, has actually claimed two lives. The first life he claimed was back home in Brazil in 2017 when he took the life of a man. He was being wanted and searched for by the authorities in that country to be apprehended. So he answers to that crime, but managed to elude officers as he's doing now, and eventually immigrated from that country illegally. So as it stands now, he is a wanted man in Brazil for that 2017 murder of another man. That is the first key thing we need to know about Danilo Cavalcante. He has taken a life before and he will go on to take a second one. We'll get there. Now, after illegally immigrating out of Brazil, where he is actually being sought for that 2017 murder, Danilo Cavalcante made a detour stop at Puerto Rico. What did he go to do there? It turns out that he went to Puerto Rico to get a fake ID. Now, this fake ID seems to have helped him in his illegal immigration to get into the United States of America. So he didn't just illegally immigrate into the United States, but rather he did so on the back of him trying to escape sentencing and prosecution for a murder in his own country. So, chapter one, a murderer has now moved into the United States from Brazil. This is where it gets tricky and dangerous because you wake up every day and you see new faces in your neighborhood, in your country. Some of them are not Americans, and straight away you are not able to tell who is who or what their record is. This is not something against immigrants, but just trying to paint the real picture around the risk of how some of these things can come up because of that lack of knowledge for the person's past. So Danilo Cavalcante is now in the United States illegally and also running away from a murder charge. That is a very toxic and dangerous combination. And it didn't take long for it to manifest, of course, in the negative outcome, where Danilo Cavalcante turns out to have settled in the Chester County area. He settled there because he has a sister who was living there prior to his arrival, and also some friends. These are friends who knew him prior to him coming to United States from Brazil, and his sister also knew him, obviously as her brother, and she had been to the United States prior to Danilo Cavalcante's arrival into the United States. Now, this is my theory. I could be wrong, but this is my theory. My theory is that his sister knew, or most likely knew, what her brother had done in Brazil and what he was running away from. It's not far-fetched to assume or to suspect that his sister knew what he had done and helped him settle in the United States as a way of helping him find a new life, running away from a crime of murder he had committed allegedly in his own country of Brazil. These friends of his, I'm sure, would also have known, because if you are a wanted man for murder, obviously there's going to be publications about it in Brazil, and they are Brazilian and they have ties to Brazil. Definitely they would know, unless through some weird circumstances they didn't. But I think it's more likely than less that they knew. With that aside, they helped him to settle in Chester County. Take note, Chester County is the same county whose prison that Danilo Cavalcanti would end up escaping from in about some few years to come. So he settled in Chester County. He tried getting some jobs in construction to find his life. And you would expect that for a man who is on the run from his own native country for a murder, to get a second chance at immigrating into a country like the United States of America, the home of the brave, the land of opportunity, you would expect that he will take this as a second chance to get his life together and do right by the people who are helping him, and even do right by himself as a person. But like I said, he has a dangerous background and he has a dangerous combination, running away from murder and entering the country illegally. You would see that it takes a lot for such a person to turn over a new leaf, and if the necessary support and self-awareness and self-repentance and remorse are not carefully balanced and attained, it is easy for this person to fall back into his old ways. And he did, because he ended up finding a girlfriend by name Deborah Brandeo. Things seemed to be going well between Deborah Brandeo and Danilo Cavalcanti until issues started coming up, where at a point in time, Deborah Brandeo broke up with Danilo Cavalcanti. Danilo Cavalcanti, however, didn't take this well, and it became more of a rift than a mutual breakup. Deborah Brandeo had two kids, little kids for that matter, and unfortunately for her, she, I'm sure, didn't even know that she was actually dating a murderer on the run, or a murderer on the run. But she would find out in a very, very sorrowful state, because eventually Danilo Cavalcanti would attack her and end up stabbing her about 40 times and ending her life in front of her two young children. Who does this? This can only be done by a sadistic person with no pity for life, no value for life, a person who does not care about taking human life over whatever he is unhappy about. And that is what eventually ended up with Danilo Cavalcanti being sentenced to life in prison without parole for, and by extension, being sent to the Chester County Prison, where he was awaiting processing for him to start his life sentence in the final destination prison. It was at this point that he would eventually escape and this whole manhunt would now ensue. But like I said, I'm going to do a dedicated video for that bit. So this is what Danelo Cavalcante did. And I'm sure after hearing this, you begin to now appreciate who the man is. He has shown that he can take a life by allegedly taking one in Brazil and with evidence taking a second one in the United States of America through very brutal means in front of the victims' children. He actually went on to tell the children what he was going to do to their mom before he did it. That is how sadistic and dangerous this guy is. Now, take that and try fitting it into a situation where he is on the run, he is being hunted down by American forces, security agencies, and all, and his back is against the wall. And imagine what would ensue if he runs face to face with somebody who tries to apprehend him. I think that Danilo Cavalcante is dangerous, and I suspect he's probably armed, although that has not been established yet. But he's dangerous enough to make most things a weapon. So I'm sure it's rather best people presume he's armed. So now back to the Chester County settlement. From what I just submitted, you will notice that Danilo Cavalcante is no stranger to Chester County and its environs because he has stayed there before. If you are not familiar or if you are not putting two and two together, let me just do that for you. Because it turns out that Chester County is the same place that he escaped from in prison. So he escaped from the Chester County prison into the Chester County community and was now being hunted by the police and other security agencies. It's no surprise to me that he was managing to elude and evade them because he knows the terrain. He has lived there before. He's familiar. And it wouldn't be surprising if it turns out that he has some people helping him, especially his sister and some friends, because they've done that for him before when he illegally immigrated into the United States whilst on the run for a murder in Brazil. And if that has happened before, it is not far-fetched to suspect that it can happen again. And during the trial for Deborah Brandeau's murder, his ex-girlfriend's murder, his sister's boyfriend actually testified that Danilo Cavalcante's sister helped him after he took the life of his ex-girlfriend. So I'm thinking that this is something that is repeating. She has helped him before and she's helping him again, probably. It might turn out that that's not the case this time around. But like I said, I think it's more likely than not that she is helping him. As it stands now, we are in day 12 of the search. And still, Danilo Cavalcante is at large. His case has now become a case of catch me if you can. And I believe he's going to get caught. It's just a matter of when. But my fear is it doesn't end up in a hostage situation. Because this guy has shown that he can kill. This guy has shown that he doesn't have problems with taking a life. And he did those things when he wasn't in a situation where his back was against the wall. In this particular point, he is backed in a corner and his back is against the wall. I think it makes him extra dangerous. And I would appeal that residents follow the instructions of the police, that people don't try to be heroes by trying to confront him when they meet him. I think that the best positioned people to face him squarely would be the police and other security agencies tasked to do so. People should keep themselves safe by ensuring all their houses are locked, everything is secured, and he has no chance of gaining any forceful entry into their space. Because with people like this, they are so unhinged, you have no idea what they are capable of. And before you would know what they are capable of, they would have done it already, and an innocent life could have been ruined. I'm looking forward to the day he'll be apprehended so some peace and calm can come to the residents in this part of the United States. But I think that the case of Danilo Cavalcante is one too many, where he has already left in his trail a dead woman and two orphaned children. The older daughter of his ex-girlfriend is actually very traumatized after hearing that Danilo Cavalcante has escaped. And she actually told reporters that she's so afraid that he might decide to come after her. And I wouldn't put it past him. I'm expecting that she's under some form of protection from the police or other necessary security agencies, because you can't put anything past this guy. That is what I think. So better safe than sorry. But then again, I'm sure the police are well equipped in their strategy and execution to factor all these things in. What do you think about Danilo Cavalcante? You think that he's on a mission, he's on a journey heading somewhere, or you think he's just trying to avoid capture and doing things as he goes? Because for me, after studying this guy, I see that there's a method to his madness. I see that he has a level of intelligence that helps him in his criminal endeavors. If you look at his escape footage, you would see that this guy is no ordinary criminal. He doesn't make up for it in size, but he makes up for it in his seeming intelligence in what he does when committing his crimes. I'm going to bring you a detailed video about his escape and matters arising afterwards. But let me know in the comment section, do you think he's even going to get caught at all? What are his chances of evading capture or even immigrating out of the United States again to another country as he did when he was being hunted in Brazil for a murder? This time around in the United States, he was actually arrested for a murder, convicted, and sentenced, but then he has escaped from prison. Let's have a conversation in the comment section and look out for the next video on the details of his escape and him being at large for 12 days. Subscribe if you are yet to do so. Turn on post notification. We'll catch you next time.